I never really know what to title these things. I know lots of people have really creative and catchy titles because they have search engine optimization, but basically, I'm going to talk about the impact of your decisions on your long-term health and what are you really doing with your life kind of discussion here. But I don't mean this in a judgmental way, actually. I want to start off by telling people that I am trying to help people by asking them some very important questions. And if you haven't thought of these things, then I hope you'll stop and think about them. But on the other hand, if you decide for yourself that this is worth it to you, then by all means, I support your decision. So let's just dive into something like bodybuilding, and then we'll go ahead and talk about powerlifting, weightlifting, strongman, etc. But we'll start off with bodybuilding, okay? For the majority of people, you are not going to be making your living from bodybuilding. You're not going to step on the stage of the Mr. Olympia. You're not going to get $1 million contracts. You're not going to be sponsored by Muscle Tech and whoever else is popular out there. I actually don't know the names of supplement companies. Sorry. I'm sure that there's someone out there. Dimetize? ON. Dimetize and ON. I know those ones. And I know Muscle Tech, because I get that Cell Tech. We all did that mistake when we were young, buying all the Cell Tech stuff because it's supposed to put 2 inches in your biceps, right? So in any case, most people in bodybuilding are not going to be making their living off of this. And so the question I ask to people all the time is, what are you sacrificing your health for? Some plastic trophy that your grandkids are going to throw away. You know, you won the local bodybuilding meet. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're Ronnie Coleman, if you're Jay Cutler, I get it. Like, you've now left a legacy. Like, if Ronnie Coleman can't walk again because of all the heavy lifting and stuff like that, well, Ronnie Coleman will go down in history as one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time. Like, it's not surprising that, you know, he would push his body to the limit. But for every Ronnie Coleman, there's a lot of guys who you've never even heard of who are just as injured and damaged as Ronnie Coleman. This brings me into powerlifting. For every, you know, Matt Wenning or, you know, Louis Simmons, Dave Tate, Jim Wendler, for every amazing name that you know in powerlifting, your Ed Cones, you know, your Fred Hatfields, you know, these incredible people. For every the Little Bridges, like the whole family's amazing. You know, for every Brian Carroll that you have out there, okay, there's a lot of guys who never made it even to the national level, let alone set a world record. And they have all the same injuries. They have all the same joint damage. They have all the same wear and tear. And of course, we'll get into the next part of this, which is, you know, in powerlifting, walking around at over 300 pounds is not all that good for your health. Okay, that's probably not good for your longevity. So, you know, what? You won a local meet. Maybe you won a state powerlifting competition, you know. But, like, you're not making your living off of this. So, like, what are you sacrificing your body for? Like I said, a plastic trophy that your grandkids are going to throw away. If you are a pro football player, you play in the NFL, you're making millions of dollars. I would sacrifice my body for millions of dollars too. You want me to run that route and get hit by some guy who weighs, you know, 255 pounds? Yep, I'll go ahead and run that route, and I'll slam heads with some huge linebacker. Okay. You want me to fight with Floyd Mayweather for $50 million? I would take that. Okay. But, like, if you're sacrificing your health and your well-being, you really do need to ask yourself what you're sacrificing it for, and is it worth it? This will bring me around into strongman then, because it's the same issue. You're destroying your joints, you're destroying your body, you're walking around at over 300 pounds. It's the same thing I see in powerlifting, and I will say to you that weightlifting is no different. They just tend to be leaner, but you're still destroying your body for this thing. So this brings us to the last part, which any conversation about this would be incomplete if we didn't bring up performance-enhancing drugs. And the thing is that you have to recognize that taking performance-enhancing drugs is not good for your health. It just isn't. Like, look at the liver enzymes whenever guys are using these things. Look at your renal function. Look at any of these markers of health, your C-reactive protein, your cholesterol levels, because you're popping some type of aromatase inhibitor or some methylated compound. This is not good for your long-term health. And then the use of stimulants. And now you're causing damage to your heart and your blood vessels, and you've got this hypertension all the time, which of course puts more strain on your kidneys. What are you doing this for? What are you getting out of it? For some people, it is worth it, and I'm not here to tell you whether or not it is or isn't worth it for you. I've already stated on many occasions, if I was playing in the NFL, I would be taking whatever they told me to take so that I could continue making millions of dollars. That would be worth it. There are things that you would do for $1 million. You offer me Sidney Crosby contract of what, $87 million? There's a lot of things I would do for $87 million. Yeah. So they told me, hey man, your knee's all fucked up, but if we give you a cortisone shot, you can play on this thing. Mind you, you'll have arthritis by the time you're 40 and won't be able to walk up and down stairs, but, you know, like $87 million. It's like, yes, I would sacrifice my knee and get a knee replacement by the time I'm 40. I would do that. That would be worth it to me. I think a lot of things would be worth $87 million. I'd get a hip replacement for $87 million. Holy shit. Wouldn't even think twice about that. You offer me $87 million to get a hip replacement? Yes. But if you're not making money off this stuff, and in fact it probably cost you money because you have to pay the entrance fees and the travel and all the stuff like that on your own, is it worth a hip replacement? Is it worth a knee replacement? Is it worth these other things? It isn't to me. That doesn't mean that it matters what is or isn't worth it to me. Because if it's worth it to you, that's fine. I'm only bringing up this conversation because I want you to stop and think about whether or not it's truly worth it to you. Because I think lots of times we're focused on the short term. I want that plastic trophy. I want that state championship. And we don't stop and think about the fact that, hey, you know, by the time I'm 40, I'm going to have problems. And so I'll talk about myself personally. For me, my goal was the military. That's all I cared about. And the only thing I cared about was becoming a Navy SEAL. Now, I did not succeed at that. But you better believe I put 100% of my effort into that. And, yeah, I now realize how much of a toll it took on my body. You know, running 100 miles a week in boots was not a good thing to do. I was a young man, I was a healthy man, and even still, now in my late 30s, I am like, wow, my knees hurt all the time, and my hips hurt all the time, and my neck hurts all the time, because you can't do stupid things like holding a boat on top of your head without it causing neck pain someday down the line. My shoulders, my elbows, my wrists from all the push-ups. Yes, you can wear your wrist out from doing thousands of push-ups. And you know what? Had I succeeded, I would tell you it was worth it. But since I didn't succeed, now I look back and I'm like, that wasn't worth it. I have nothing to show for it. So what I'm trying to point out here is that I want you to ask yourself, if you failed at this goal, if you failed to set a record, would it still be worth all the damage you did to your body? And that's a question only you can answer. I'm not answering it for you. You can make that decision. But really, you have to stop and ask what you're doing with your life, and whether it's not or is worth it to you to take that damage for the long term.